Hello and welcome to the solution video for the getLength recursion problem. So off the bat, this definitely does seem like a tricky problem just because it's so ingrained into us to use the length property on array objects in order to get the length. However, we will see that it actually is pretty simple by applying the recursion technique to this problem. So just to reiterate the problem statement, we want to get the length of an array using recursion without accessing its length property. And we know that we'll be input an array and we will be outputting a number, which will be the length. So off the bat, we know that we will need a length variable in here somewhere. There's a couple ways to do this. You can either define it in your global scope so that you're not overwriting it each time, or you can use a closure in order to pass it down. Or the way I like to do it, just to make it easy, is to define our length in the parameters, and if we aren't given a length, we can just set it to 0. So that way, if we're not given one, it will be equal to 0 instead of being undefined. All right, so let's set up a few base cases or pseudocodes to go through this. So we know that we'll need a base case to exit if we have some condition met, we know that we'll want to act on our length variable if we don't reach that base case. And then eventually we'll also want to call our getLength again. So again, we want to have a base case where we exit our function and just return our current length if the length is 0. Length of array of 0. Then we want to increase the length if our length of array is not 0. And then finally, we want to call our getLength function again, right? Since we're doing this recursively. Again, and pass in our current length again. So we can increment that. And finally, we'll want to return whatever our end result is. All right, so that said, our base case. So here we want to exit the function and return length if length of the array is equal to 0. So normally we would just say array.length, but here what we can do instead is we know that if we try to access an index of an array that doesn't exist, we'll get undefined. So that's exactly what we can do on the 0th element. So if array of 0 is equal to undefined, we can just return whatever our current length is. So that means that if we were passed an array with just an empty array object, we would see that array of 0 does not exist, so it would equal undefined, and then we would return out of our recursive call. So then if we don't have that condition, we just want to increment our length, since we're trying to keep track of that variable. Length plus 1. Or another trick to do the shorthand is just to say length plus plus. And then what we can do after that is we can now use a recursive call to getLength and pass in our array length, or the rest of our array. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to delete an element of our array each time so that eventually we'll get down to an empty array and we'll call that first case on line 4. So what we can do is we can slice out an element each time we make a call to getLength. I'll do that here. I'll say array.slice 1. So that means everything after the first element. And then we also want to pass in our new length variable. And that is it. We just need to return that result now. And there you have it. There's our getLength problem. And we can just run this real quick to test it out. And we should get a 1, 2, and a 5. And there you have it, 1, 2, and 5. There's your getLength problem. Thank you very much.